Something I'm seeing a lot on the internet right now is people talking about whether or not Battlefield should be concerned about the new Modern Warfare game, and today I want to tackle that question, and I actually want to talk about how Modern Warfare has stumbled upon a really unique opening that doesn't typically happen in the games industry. So let's dive in. To make things short and sweet, to a large extent, yeah, Battlefield 5 should be critically worried about Modern Warfare, mostly because I truly believe that Battlefield 5 will be killed off pretty well by this new Modern Warfare installment. And the reason I say this is because Battlefield 5 has had ongoing issues, lots of bugs and lots of problems, most of which are slowly being resolved, but there also is just a distinct lack of content that has been there for a while. Whilst there is lots coming, including 2 more maps this month coming, as well as loads in the Pacific Theatre, ultimately there just hasn't been enough to keep players interested, and there hasn't been enough to keep players returning. And I really feel as though this has created a prime opportunity for Modern Warfare to come in and capitalise, and the reason they've done so well is because this game is actually appealing to a wider cross-section and audience. So, just to lay it down so far, it does have a campaign, which is great, lots of people do actually play that surprisingly. It will have a co-op Spec Ops feature, which is something people have missed. It also has a fully fledged multiplayer with variants ranging from 2v2 up to 20v20, including larger maps, and it even has some realism to it. The Gunsmith, for example, I feel as though is really tapping into a lot of hardcore shooter audience bases like Insurgency and like Battlefield, and players who consider themselves to be casual-ish, but also a bit more on the hardcore side of things are going to be brought back in here, and people who find games like PUBG, for example, interesting might even give this game a go. And I feel like this fully fledged feature set, which appeals to such a wide cross-section of audience, be it people who are just interested in playing a Call of Duty game and will play every single one that releases, all the way up until skeptics who typically play Battlefield games and other hardcore shooters comparatively, you have this really great mix of audience where maybe everybody won't be satisfied with the final product, but ultimately it gives them a reason to play it and a reason to try it. Combine that with the fact that Call of Duty's always been pretty good at keeping people coming back, be it with content releases, potentially a Battle Royale feature, which has been teased for the game so far, and even things like weekly challenges and their competitive league play. Ultimately, there's just so much for such a wide audience that Call of Duty is really digging a nail in the coffin here. So in the short term of the next, 6 months to a year, yeah, I will say that Modern Warfare is probably going to be pretty detrimental to Battlefield. I think a large cross-section of both YouTubers, streamers, and just general players who typically identify with Battlefield are looking at this new Call of Duty and its Gunsmith and things that it has and going, yeah, I feel that. And I'm one of those people, I typically play more hardcore shooters, but I do like something that's a little less, a little less concentration based, maybe a bit more toned down. And I feel like in some respects Call of Duty does offer that, but I also like competition. I also like 6v6 and 2v2. And I feel like, be it Rainbow Six Siege, PUBG or Battlefield, there's always been sort of a mix of modern-ish shooters that I've really enjoyed, and Modern Warfare directly appeals to that. But the reason this blow is much more successful than that is actually down to a wider problem. Now, beyond battle royales like Apex Legends and Fortnite and stuff, when was the last time you can safely say that a first-person shooter really grabbed your attention? Regardless if it's Call of Duty, regardless if it's Battlefield or anything in between, when was the last time you saw a shooter come onto the scene that you felt actually pretty hyped up about and pretty anticipated for, especially a modern shooter as well? We haven't seen a really good modern first-person shooter on consoles especially in a very, very long time. We've had World War II installments from Battlefield, which again, ultimately didn't sit well with most players. The World War I installment did incredibly well commercially, but did not necessarily too well with some of the community. And then we had Call of Duty World War II, and then we had Black Ops 4, which was just a weird step in a futuristic direction with health bars and stims and just really not what I think a lot of people were looking for in a Black Ops installment. So really, if you think about it, between COD World War II and Battlefield 1 up until the present day, so we're talking, anywhere between 2 to 3 years now, there hasn't been a shooter of a modern variety that I think has appealed to such a wide cross-sectional audience because it's on console, PC, and it's just a modern shooter. Like, when was the last time, beyond a game like Insurgency maybe, that people actually actually had anticipation for a game. And that's not to diminish a game like Insurgency, it's just it doesn't have the wider appeal that a game like Call of Duty does, because Insurgency is a very hardcore shooter and presently is only available on PC, but will be coming to console this year. Now, with all of that in mind, an almost perfect environment has been made here, where players who have been disappointed by Battlefield, players who don't really want to play anything along the lines of a Battle Royale, finally have something to look forward to in the form of a modern shooter that is Modern Warfare. And I really think that that's something that has been quite successful in terms of what this game has done, and more importantly, when it has come. Because this game has come at that exact right moment where there has been a bit of a wash of modern and old school kind of games, but nothing has hit that Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3 style modern shooter or Modern Warfare 2 style shooter that people really enjoyed a very long time ago now. But on the whole, should Battlefield really be worried? Well, in the short term, yeah, I really do think this is going to be a huge blow to the World War II Battlefield. I feel like Battlefield 5 hasn't been in the best of places, and I feel like this game has almost come with a sort of final blow where it's like, look at me, I'm a game with all these features, I've got everything, I probably won't have bugs and will be ready for launch. And all of a sudden everybody's just sort of looking around like, yo, that kind of sounds cool. And that's kind of what's happened here. So in the short term, I do see Battlefield 5 taking a big hit, if I'm honest. But further on in the future, should it be worried? Well, actually no, I really don't think so. You know, one of the reasons I played Battlefield was because I fundamentally believe that whatever Call of Duty did, or any shooter for that reason, Battlefield could typically do better. And Battlefield 3 and 4, although they had their problems, down the line did actually showcase that. I think Battlefield 4 and 3, I mean, they're two of the most successful modern shooters in living history, I'd say. Battlefield 4 today, you can still log on, there'll be about 25,000 people playing on any given day for a game that was released over 6 years ago. And I think that's an incredibly impressive feat, and there's even some people playing Battlefield 3 for now. And I really do believe that Battlefield, when it does release a new modern game, which I will believe is the next installment that will likely come in 2020 due to the release of the brand new consoles, then I think you'll kind of have a no-brainer. I feel like provided there aren't any major bugs or major issues in that department, and it maintains a steady flow of content, then a futuristic or modern-ish Battlefield would be fantastic. I feel as though people have been looking forward to a Battlefield 6 that resembles Battlefield 3 and 4. And we know that with the new cosmetic customization and weapon customization in Battlefield 4, that if they wanted to, down the line, Battlefield could have a very extensive customization set for a modern game, as well as the fact that there are tanks, helicopters, jets, and everything in between that would return to the franchise that have been amiss for a long time. So in the long term, not necessarily. I do believe that as modern shooters go, Battlefield can always do better than Call of Duty, somewhere down the line. I don't always consider them to be direct competitors, typically because they offer very two different things. Call of Duty has always been a more competitive arcade experience, whereas Battlefield has tried to liken itself to a more hardcore environment. But in this scenario, I really do feel as though, as far as modern settings go for video games, should Battlefield release a new one sort of down the line soon, then I really wouldn't be too concerned about Call of Duty. Call of Duty commercially is always going to be a success. They will always sell lots of copies. But I do believe that from a technical standpoint, Battlefield doesn't really have much to worry about. So folks, that's about it from me today, TheTacticalBrit. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again in the next video.